In this video, we are going to take up about keyword argument and print function. Most arguments are identified by their position in the function call. For example, suppose if I say random dot rand int 1 comma 10 is different from random dot rand int 10 comma 1. The function called random dot rand int 1 comma 10 will return a random integer between 1 and 10. Because the first argument is the low end of the range and the second argument is the high end of the range, while random dot rand int 10 comma 1 causes an error. So keyword arguments are identified by the keyword put before the function call. Keyword arguments are often used for optional parameters. What does it mean? For example, in the print function, we have two optional parameters. One is end and the other one is sep, to specify that should be printed at the end of its argument and between its argument, separating them respectively. If you run the following program, so we have print hello and print world. So what is the output? Hello and world. Both are in the next line. Because by default, always in the print function, it goes to the next line. The two strings appear on separate lines because the print function automatically adds a new line character to the end of the string. It is passed. So like here hello slash n backslash n. That's automatically it does. So that is the reason why it is gone for two lines. One is hello, first line, the word, the second one. However, you can set the end keyword argument to change this to a different string. That means I want it in a single line, hello world. So what I can do, print hello within single quotes, comma, end equals close, open quote and close quote. Then you write print hello world. What is going to be the output? Hello world without space. Because we have not given any space here, so that is the reason why you are not getting any space here. So both the print function will print the word hello world in a single line, because after the function, so we are using the keyword parameter, that is end equals open and close the single quotes. Now when you pass multiple string values to a print function, the function will automatically separate them with a single space. Suppose if I want print cats, dogs, mice, of course you are given commas. If you run this program, then what it does, it gives cats and gives one space, dogs gives one space, and mice one space. But you could replace the default separating string by passing the set keyword argument. So that means what it means, if you see the output here, cats, dogs, mice are given between the cats and dogs you have one space, between the dogs and mice you have one space. But to differentiate between these two, at least I should put a comma there. So to do that, I will print the same statement again with sep equals open and close quotes with a comma. Why? Because wherever you have a space, there you insert as wherever you have a two strings which are separated. So in that case, the gap between those two separation strings or separate strings, put a comma there to identify the difference. For example, you can see cats, dogs, mice. So this is how it will going to work. Now we will go to the next one. What is the local and the global scope? Parameters and variables that are assigned in a called function. Parameters and variables that are assigned in a called function are said to exist in that function's local scope. So what does it mean? We're going to explain that when I take up an example. Variables that are assigned outside all functions are set to a global scope. A variable that exists in a local scope, a variable that exists in a local scope is called local variable, while a variable that exists in a global scope is called a global variable. A variable must be one or the other. It cannot be both local and global. What does it mean? A variable which is assigned within the function is called local. A variable is assigned outside the all functions is global. So that means either it can be a local or it can be a global, but both it is not possible. Think of a scope as a container for a variable. When a scope is destroyed, all the values stored in that scope's variables are forgotten. There is only one global scope and it is created when your program begins. When your program terminates, the global scope is destroyed and all its variables are forgotten. Otherwise, the next time you run your program, the variables would remember their values from the last time you ran it. A local scope is created whenever a function is called. A local scope is created whenever a function is called. Any variable assigned in this function exists in the local scope. When the function returns the local scope, the local scope is destroyed and these variables are forgotten. That means you cannot take the function or the variables assigned from the local scope outside the function. The next time you call this function, the local variables will not remember the values stored in them from the last time the function is called. The scope matters for several reasons. One, code in the global scope cannot use any local variables. However, a local scope can access a global scope or global variable. Code in functions local scope cannot use variables in any other local scope. And you can use the same name for different variables if they are different scopes. That is, there can be a local variable named spam and a global variable also named spam. The reason Python has different scopes instead of just making everything a global variable is so that when a variable is modified by the code in a particular call to a function, the function interacts with the rest of the program only through its parameters and the return value. This narrows down the list of code lines that may be causing a bug. If your program contained nothing but global variables and had a bug because of a variable being set to a bad value, then it would be harder to track down where this bad value was set. It could have been set from anywhere in the program and your program could be hundreds or thousands of lines long. But if the bug is because of a local variable with a bad value, you know that only the code that is one function could have set it correctly. While using global variables in small program is fine, it is a bad habit to rely on global variables as your programs get larger and larger. So now this is about the theoretical part of the local variable and the global scope. Local variables cannot be used in the global scope. What does it mean? Suppose if I say define spam, x is equal to 31337. That means you have assigning the value to a variable in a function. So it is a local variable. If you want to print, So what it will go to print now? The moment when your spam is called, you are calling the variable. So x will going to be assigned with x is equal to 31337. Print x. So there what happens? The error happens. Why it? Because the x variable exists only in the local scope because you are assigning the value to a variable in a function. So that means it becomes a local variable. So once it becomes a local variable, if you want to print the x outside, because see print x is outside the function. So naturally the local variable, once it comes out of the function, it will delete or it will not be able to hold to that particular value. So the value will go to cease and cancels the value which has been assigned to that variable. Therefore, you will going to get a error. Once the program execution returns from spam, the local scope is destroyed and there is no longer a variable named x. So, when your program tries to run print x, Python gives you an error saying that x is not defined. This makes sense if you think about it. When the program execution is in the global scope, no local scope exists. So, there can't be any local variable. This is why only global variables can be used in the global scope. So, now we will try to execute this. Let us see how it will go into functions. Now, we will come to this. So, if you want to run this program, I will go to this. I will say print hello first, print hello, then print world. Okay. Then if you want to run the program, hello world will going to come in separate lines, because by default at the end of the print function automatically the cursor goes to the next line. Suppose now I want to continue the hello world in the same line. So what I have to do? Hello world, comma, end equals, close the quotes. Now if you try to print, so you will going to get hello world in a single line. So if you observe the difference here, hello world, after hello there is no space. Why? Because we have not given any space. Suppose if I give one space here, and if you try to run this program again, you can see the difference that there will be a space between hello and world. This is what after the print function, at the end of the print function, I want to continue in the same line. I'm asking the print function, don't go to the next line, you continue in the same line. So that is the separation keyword which we are using as end. This is a keyword. Suppose we have this one, and now suppose if I want to print cats, dogs, mice now, I will come back to this. I will say print, I will pass the multiple function, print cats, okay, then dogs, then mice. So if you try to print this, it will print in the continuous line with a space. You can see cats, dogs, mice. But I want to separate these two strings with a comma and these two strings with a comma. Then what I will do? I will say SEP separate equals, give one space within quotes, type comma. Now if you try to run this, you can see cats, you will going to have a comma, dogs you have comma, and mice you will going to have a comma. So this is how I can use the separate keywords, keywords in a print function. Now we will come down to a local variables cannot be used in the global scope. We are going to try to execute this. How it can be done? I will go to this. I will say define a function. I will going to define spam is a function, and I will going to create a local variable x equals 31337. I am going to give the value 31337. So once you do that, I will call that function span. I will call that function. Then I will say print. What I will going to print? I will going to print x. Okay, so this is how I will going to execute. Print x. Okay, sorry. Print x. Now you will try to execute this. Now if you try to execute, so what it does, it gives an error because it says name x is not defined. Why you are getting like that? Because whenever you want to define a function, now I will try to execute this. So go to debug, Python debugger. Now it comes to the first line. So we are defining the function span. Then x is equal to 31337. So we are defining the value. We are defining. You are using the function. You are defining this function span. So then in that function span, I am assigning the value to a variable x. So this is a local variable because we are assigning the value for a variable in a function. So when you try to run this, so it comes to span. We are calling the function. Since you are calling the function, immediately the cursor jumps back to this. So it comes to this. So what is now? X will be assigned with 31337. So now once it comes to this, so the moment when it comes out of the function, what is the value of the span return? It is null type. Why? Because the moment when it comes out of the function, x will no longer will going to have the value because it will be cancelling the value which has been stored in the x. So therefore, once it comes out, it no longer will be able to hold the value because it is a local variable. So if you want to print that value of x, it won't print. Why? Because you don't have the value, that itself, the variable itself is get cancelled. So therefore, it says x is not defined. So this is how this local variable will going to work in a Python program. Thank you.